I wasn't snooping. I was looking for batteries. Our smoke detector had been chirping for 2 days, and Claire kept saying she'd handle it. She didn't. So there I was, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, standing in our bedroom, sliding open her nightstand drawer with the simple goal of finding a couple of AA batteries and restoring silence to the house. Inside was the usual clutter: loose chapstick tubes, faded receipts from restaurants we barely remembered visiting, spare charging cables knotted together like they'd given up on being useful. Then I noticed the envelope. Plain white. No label, no logo, no return address. It was tucked neatly beneath a stack of magazines she never actually read, positioned in a way that didn't feel accidental. Something about it felt deliberate, hidden, but not thrown away, protected. I pulled it free and opened it. Inside was a folded lab report, Quest Diagnostics, her name printed clearly at the top. Patient, Claire Hartman. Test date, March 15, 2024. Results, positive. For a moment, I couldn't process what I was seeing. The words blurred together, my vision tunneling, fingers going cold around the paper. Chlamydia. My wife had tested positive for chlamydia, and the detail that froze everything inside me wasn't just the result, it was the timeline. We hadn't had sex in over a year, not a single time, not since April of last year when she said she was overwhelmed, exhausted, needed distance, needed space. 14 months of sharing a bed, sharing a home, sharing a life in name only, and not once had we been intimate. I stood there holding that report while the realization settled like ice in my chest. If we hadn't touched each other in more than a year, where did this come from? If you want to know what I did next and what I found when I started digging, hit subscribe because the test result was just the beginning. My name is Nathan Hartman. I'm 39 years old and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a software engineer and I work from home most days, which means I'm present more than most husbands, observant in ways that are sometimes useful and sometimes unbearable. My wife, Claire, is 37. She's a marketing director for a tech startup downtown. Long hours, constant travel, always connected to her phone. We've been married for 11 years. The first 8 were good, not flawless, but steady, warm, real. We laughed easily, we planned trips, we talked about the future like it was something we were building together. Then, about 3 years ago, something shifted. Her promotion came with longer hours and more travel, and gradually the emotional distance followed. We didn't argue, we didn't fight, we simply drifted apart, quietly, politely, like two people slowly stepping back from each other in a crowded room. The intimacy disappeared first. It didn't vanish overnight. It faded. Weekly closeness became occasional. Occasional became rare. Rare became excuses. Excuses became silence. By April of last year, we had gone 6 months without touching each other. When I tried to talk about it, she shut the conversation down quickly. Work is overwhelming, Nathan. Can we not make this a bigger issue? So I told myself it was temporary. Stress, burnout, something we would fix later. But later never came. Months stretched on. 6 became 9. 9 became 12. 12 became 14. Somewhere along the way, I stopped initiating. Not because I stopped caring, but because rejection from the person closest to you erodes something fundamental. We continued performing the motions of a marriage, shared bed, routine conversations, social media photos that suggested stability. But inside the house, we lived separate lives under the same roof. She came home late, ate while working, fell asleep scrolling her phone. I worked, cleaned, cooked, and convinced myself distance was normal. Then I found the test result and understood there was nothing left to repair. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding that paper, while my mind worked through the only logical explanations. Chlamydia doesn't appear on its own. It is transmitted, which meant there was only one real conclusion. Claire had been with someone recently. The test date was March 15th, just 2 months earlier. I considered the alternative, that she had carried it for years without knowing, but that didn't align with reality. We were both tested before we married, and if she'd had it that long, I would have been infected too. The logic was simple, unavoidable, precise.
She cheated, and she knew enough to get tested. I didn't confront her, not yet. I photographed the report with my phone, uploaded it to a secure folder, and replaced everything exactly as I found it. Envelope under the magazines, drawer closed, evidence preserved. Then I went downstairs, opened a beer, and sat in silence. My hands trembled, but not from anger, from clarity. For 14 months, I had blamed myself, questioned what I lacked, wondered why she withdrew. Now, I understood she hadn't withdrawn from intimacy, she had relocated it. Claire came home around 8 p.m., dropped her bag by the door, asked if I had eaten, and moved through the house with casual indifference. No greeting, no affection, just routine. I watched her disappear upstairs and felt something unfamiliar settle inside me. Not heartbreak, not fury, but a cold determination. I wasn't going to react emotionally. I was going to gather facts. The next morning, I scheduled a full STD panel with my doctor. No symptoms, just precaution. 3 days later, my results returned negative across the board. Relief and anger arrived together. Relief that I was healthy, anger because confirmation removed the final doubt.
She had not been with me. She had been with someone else. I archived my results with hers and began examining everything. I accessed our shared iCloud account and mapped her location history across the last 6 months. Most destinations were predictable. Work, gym, home, coffee shops, but one location repeated consistently. An apartment complex in South Austin called the Meridian. 17 visits in 3 months, each lasting 2 to 3 hours, always during weekday afternoons. I cross-referenced the timestamps with her work calendar. Each visit aligned with a supposed client meeting or off-site session. 17 meetings at the same apartment complex. The pattern was undeniable. Next, I reviewed her message history. Most conversations were professional and unremarkable, but one contact stood out, saved simply as Jason Vendor. The messages were brief but telling. Running late. Bring wine. Last night was perfect. I scrolled further back until I found the line that erased any remaining doubt. I told Nathan I'm working late. We have until 10. I stared at my own name on the screen, repurposed as her cover story. I traced the phone number through a reverse lookup. Jason Keller, 29 years old, sales representative for a SaaS company. His professional profiles showed confidence, charm, carefully curated success. He worked in the same building as Claire's company. Their connection was obvious. I continued searching, moving through every available platform, every public detail, assembling a picture piece by piece. He wasn't subtle. Lots of posts about living your best life and no regrets. One photo from 6 weeks ago, a wine glass on a balcony overlooking downtown Austin. The view matched the Meridian apartments. I zoomed in on the reflection in the glass. There, barely visible, was a woman's hand, wedding ring on the finger. I knew that ring. I'd bought it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Claire, listening to her breathe and felt like I was lying next to a stranger. She shifted in her sleep. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I waited until she was still again, then carefully picked it up. Face ID didn't work. She'd changed it so I couldn't unlock it anymore. But I didn't need to unlock it. The notification on the lock screen told me everything. Jason, miss you already. Same time Thursday. It was 2 a.m. He was texting her at 2 a.m., and she'd see it first thing in the morning. I set the phone down, got out of bed, and went to the guest room. I couldn't lie next to her anymore. The next morning, Claire didn't mention that I'd slept in the guest room. She got up, showered, dressed, and left for work without a word. I waited until her car was gone, then I made a call. Law Office of Sandra Reeves. Hi, I need to speak with someone about a divorce. There was a pause. Are you a current client? No, I'm new. Let me connect you with Miss Reeves. A minute later, a calm, professional voice came on the line. This is Sandra Reeves. How can I help you? I took a breath. My wife is cheating on me. I have proof, and I want to make sure I'm protected. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. Sandra was in her 50s, sharp, non-nonsense, the kind of lawyer who'd seen every version of this story. We met in her office that afternoon. I brought printouts, location data, screenshots, the STD test, my clean results. She went through everything methodically. "This is solid," she said. "Texas is a no-fault state, but adultery still matters in asset division, especially if you can prove she used marital funds to support the affair." "I can," I said. I pulled up our joint credit card statements. Charges at the Meridian Apartments wine shop, restaurants in that neighborhood, a weekend trip to San Antonio I didn't know about, all on our card. Sandra smiled. "She financed her affair with your money, apparently. Do you want to try counseling? Mediation?" I shook my head. "I want out. Clean, fast, fair. Fair to you or fair to her?" "Fair to me." She nodded. "Then let's get to work." Sandra filed the papers a week later. I didn't tell Claire. I let the process server do it. He caught her at her office on a Thursday afternoon. I was working from home when my phone rang. "What the hell is this?" Claire's voice was shaking, angry, panicked. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "You can't just—" "Nathan, we need to talk about this." "We haven't talked in over a year, Claire. I think we're past that. This is insane. You're overreacting." I almost laughed. "Am I?" Silence. "I found the test result," I said quietly. The line went dead quiet. "Clem, Nathan, Clem, I dated 2 months ago. We haven't had sex in 14 months. I could hear her breathing fast, shallow. "So unless you want to explain how you got an STD without sleeping with anyone, I suggest you call a lawyer." "Nathan, please." I hung up. She came home that night. I was in the kitchen making dinner for one. She walked in, eyes red, makeup smudged. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Nathan, please just listen." I set down the knife, turned to face her. "Fine, talk." She took a breath. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was lonely and he was there." "And how long?" She stopped. "What? How long have you been sleeping with him?" She looked away.
"A few months. Try 6, I said. I pulled your location data. You've been to his apartment 17 times since January." Her face went white. "And you used our credit card to buy wine for your little dates. So not only did you cheat, you made me pay for it." "Nathan, I'm done. Claire, I'm not angry. I'm not hurt. I'm just done." I grabbed my keys. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. My lawyer will be in touch." I walked out, and for the first time in over a year, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce took 4 months. Claire tried to fight it at first, claimed I was being unreasonable, that we could work it out, but Sandra was relentless. She presented the evidence, the test results, the location data, the credit card charges. Claire's lawyer tried to argue that Texas is a no-fault state, that the affair shouldn't matter. Sandra countered with proof that Claire had used marital assets to fund the relationship. She didn't just cheat, Sandra told the mediator, she embezzled from her own marriage. That changed the tone. In the end, the settlement was clean. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, my car. Claire kept hers. No alimony, no drawn-out battles, just a clean split. The day the papers were signed, I sat in Sandra's office and felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, just closure. "How do you feel?" Sandra asked. "Lighter," I said. She smiled. "Good. That's how you should feel." 6 months later, I sold the house. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I bought a small condo downtown. Modern, clean, mine. I started going to the gym again, started cooking real meals, started saying yes to things I'd been putting off for years. I took a solo trip to Colorado, hiked trails I'd always wanted to see. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with, and slowly, quietly, I started to feel like myself again. I ran into Claire once at a coffee shop near her office. She looked different, thinner, tired. "Nathan," she said, surprised. "Claire." Awkward silence. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good." She nodded. "I'm glad." Another pause. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized I didn't feel anything. Not anger, not love, not even pity, just
indifference. "I hope you're doing okay," I said, and I meant it. I left before the conversation could go deeper because some chapters don't need an epilogue. A year after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. She was a teacher, funny, kind, honest. We met at a bookstore, started talking about a novel we'd both read, ended up getting coffee, then dinner, then a second date, a third. She didn't know about Claire, not at first, but when I told her, she didn't flinch. "Everyone has a past," she said. "What matters is what you do with it." I liked that. We took it slow. No rush, no pressure, just two people getting to know each other. And for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. Here's what I learned. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. You can't love someone into being faithful. And you can't build a future with someone who's already checked out. Claire didn't leave me because I wasn't enough. She left because she wanted something I couldn't give her, permission to be someone else. And that's okay, because I wanted something she couldn't give me, honesty. The test result I found that day wasn't just proof of an affair, it was proof that I deserved better. And once I accepted that, everything else fell into place. If this story hit home, comment, "I deserved better." If you've ever found something that changed everything, if you've ever had to walk away from someone you thought you'd be with forever, this one's for you. Hit subscribe for more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments, because sometimes the worst discovery is the beginning of your best.